Our last lecture, we are looking at schools of thought and branches of psychology, and we ended looking at family psychology, which is the study of families and their dynamics. It encompasses everything from the way families members interact with each other to how they handle stressors and crises. And we also looked at personality psychology, which is the study of individual differences in what and behavior, and also looked at media psychology, the study of how people interact with and respond to various forms of media. Then environmental psychology, which is the study of how people interact with their surroundings, and child psychology, which is the study of mind and behavior. When it comes to child psychology, this means studying how children think, feel, and behave. So today we are going to look at methods in psychology. Methods in psychology. Methods in psychology. Methods in psychology. We said psychology is a scientific study of human behavior and mental processes in a given context. It is a social science that examines people's thoughts, feelings, and behaviors using various approaches of evaluation. Experimental clinical psychology, for example, use various research methods in psychology to develop therapy treatment plans, set outcome goals, and apply behavioral strategies. Who does the research in psychology so as to know these methods? Experimental and clinical psychologists conduct research in psychology to better understand human thought and behavior. These professionals often use various scientific methods to study mental processes to better develop treatment plans and strategies for behavioral therapy. Research methods in psychology can have a quantitative or qualitative context, and they can focus on how people perceive the world, process information, make a decision, and react to the stimuli. Many psychology research methods also use statistical techniques to make conclusions about a population. Qualitative-based research methods in psychology use non-statistical techniques to learn about experiences of the individual and communities that they study. When psychologists, psychiatrists, and other mental health professionals rely on psychological research, their application in other industries where this type of research can support positive outcomes. For instance, psychological research in sales and marketing can be effective for analyzing consumer populations, promoting products and services, and motivating customers to purchase. So what are the methods used in psychology research? We have surveys. Psychologists often use surveys to study the prevalence and causes of mental health disorders. Survey research can be quantitative or qualitative, and researchers often use random selection techniques when choosing and surveying sample groups of patients. Random selection helps you select a sample that's representative of the population and can produce more reliable results for analysis. You get a very big population of people, but you get out few members who are representative of the entire group, and the results you get from that will be representative of the entire group or the entire population. In psychology, there are case studies also as a method. They use case studies. Case studies in a depth investigation of a single person or group of persons, event or community. Psychologists can conduct case study research on patients to better understand their behavior and mental health. So having a detailed understanding of a patient's mental illness can help you treat that patient more effectively. And case study research allows psychologists to interview patients and observe their behavior extensively over a specific period of time. So in case studies, you get a person or a group of people, you study them, you see how their behavior has progressed in the different situations. Then after that, you can make a conclusion, an informed conclusion on how people behave or take themselves. Another method is, here we have case studies, then experimental studies. Experimental studies. So experimental studies can help psychologists determine whether a causal relationship exists between two variables such as patient's behavior and mental health. You look at the behavior of a person and how that impacts on his mental or her mental health. Psychologists may use experimental studies to test whether a change in one independent variable affects a dependent what? Independent variable. This can allow the psychologist to measure how altering one condition affects human behavior or performance. For instance, psychologists may perform experimental studies to determine the external causes of a community's patterns of behavior. These studies can also be useful in other applications, such as cell psychology, in order to better understand collective human behavior as it applies to various causes and effects. We have content analysis as yet another method. Content analysis. Content analysis. Content analysis involves analyzing text-based data to identify patterns, meanings, and themes with a patient's written communication styles. So clinical psychologists can conduct content analysis on any form of text, including full transcripts of patient interviews or monologues, business emails, and handwritten letters. This research method can help you develop optimal psychological treatments by closely analyzing the patient's word usage and speech patterns. Additionally, content analysis is an effective tool for many forensic psychologists working to solve behavioral problems, criminal cases, and severe mental health issues. You ask somebody to write and he talks. The use of the language or the words used, all this help you to understand what is underneath the mind of this person. This is what we call meta-analysis. 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 Meta-analysis is a content research method that reviews the results from published studies on the same question and combines multiple research findings into one overall collection of data. So psychologists can conduct a meta-analysis by searching library databases for all published studies on a single topic and gather the research into collective summary. They bring all different studies about the same issue, later come out with information that explains better that information or that case. We have correlational studies. Correlational studies. Correlation research is a non-experimental research method and measures two variables and assesses the relationship between them. This research method involves observing two variables that don't change and analyzing whether there is a correlation between the variables, such as scores on two different personality tests. In this case, the score on the first personality test may relate to the score on the second test, since both assessments evaluate personality type. Where correlation research can help you identify relationship between two events or traits or behaviors, this method doesn't account for any causal relationship between the variables you study. Therefore, many researchers may also use causal research along with correlational studies to better form conclusions about their work. Psychologists also use what we can say quasi-experiments. A quasi-experiment is similar to a traditional experiment. However, the researchers do not randomly assign participants to experimental groups. This supports research where psychologists may be interested more in an independent variable that can't be random, such as an innate quality that participants have. For example, you might use a quasi-experiment to study participants who have identifiable mental health traits, since these traits are not random and therefore cannot assign participants study groups randomly. We have also naturalistic observation. Naturalistic observation. Naturalistic observation. Naturalistic observation is a research method psychologists apply to study patients' behavior when patients are in their natural environments. Get the person in his natural environment and help this person to know you understand what's going on in his life or her life. Then we have also structured observation. This is an observation research method that evaluates human behavior in a more structured environment. To get a person from his natural environment, put him in another environment. And lastly, we have neuroimaging, which neuroimaging is a technology that scans the human brain and we understand what is taking place in a human being and why a person behaves the way he behaves. So when we talk about methods in psychology, those are the ones I've just been talking about. I hope you read in depth to better grasp them. With more further reading, everything will be okay. I wish to thank you so much for listening to me. Have a nice day.